Hello viewers and welcome back to the channel. Today we're in the Kia Sorento GT-Line. So this sits at the top, and the one that we're in is drive away from about $73,500. You can start at $69,500 with the V6 front wheel drive combination. This one features the venerable 2.2 litre diesel and all-wheel drive. With the $695 paint option, that brings us to $73,500, give or take. And it's quite a nice car. I've been fortunate enough to test out the Kia Sorento S and the Kia Sorento Sport Plus prior to this, and you can check out those reviews if they're online already. And so yeah, here we are in the top spec, and it's a very familiar layout and something I've got used to now. It's very comfortable, it's quite practical in here. I'd even go so far to say that it's simplistic, but also just really kind of purposeful. I like the chunkiness in the door handles, the cup holders in the second row. They just all seem to have quite a robust feel to it. But that doesn't mean the car isn't family friendly. Of course, it's a 7-seater, and I think it loves to have a chat with you as well. But it's just a really good family car with plenty of room in the first and second rows, and that third row, it's going to be for the kids or for shorter people or for shorter distances, but you certainly have the option there. Otherwise, you can fold those seats down and just enjoy the extra room for boot and storage space as well. So it is versatile, and that's what you want in these sorts of cars, I think. The 2.2 litre diesel is a very familiar power plant in the Hyundai Kia group, and it just gets along, it does the job really well. You have the added torque, of course, and you have the bonus of the all-wheel drive, so that extra reassurance. In driving the V6, it is also a decent motor. It's maybe a little quieter, but it can also be a little bit sprightly, perhaps. A lot of power being sent just to the front wheels from that 3.5 litre. The 3.5 litre V6 will give you 200 kilowatts and 332 Newton meters going to the front wheels. The 2.2 litre diesel will give you 148 kilowatts and 440 Newton meters going to all four wheels. But look, visibility, of course, as you'd expect, is really good. It's what people want from these SUVs. And at night, we get some nice little mood lighting, which is exclusive to the GT line. But it's really nice. You get these nice little light up gills, almost, I would say, in the door near the door handles. But you know, it's all tastefully done. Now we do have all those little driver warnings going off, so it's something to get accustomed to. Of course, every speed limit change, we get a little ding. Every time you're over the speed limit by a kilometer, you'll get a beep as well. You can turn those off through the menus, but they will reactivate once you turn the car off and on again. Creature comforts, we have climate control. You get climate for the row 2, and for row 3 they also have their own little adjusters, which is really nice and welcomed. We have USB points throughout, which obviously you'll miss out on the base model, but very welcomed for those longer trips in the Sport Plus and definitely in the GT line. We have this massive panoramic glass in the GT line, which it lets in a lot of light and just adds to the airiness in here, which is really good.
The dials in the GT line differ from the lower trim levels, as they include blind spot cameras that activate when you use the indicators. They can also be changed between a standard and a simpler view, the latter being similar to the standard dial display from the lower trim levels, and one we found wasn't very informative in its representation of speed or revs.
We have 4 different drive modes. I haven't really played with them. It's just, I think, just tells you what the car's all about, that I haven't had to touch those. But yes, you have normal, you have eco, just to be a little bit more economical drive. You have sport for a bit better pickup, and smart, which just lets the car figure out how you best want to get around. You do have 3 terrain modes which you can use as well, should you wish to do a little bit of adventurous driving as well. One thing I like about Kia products is that we have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and in the lower spec models you didn't have a wireless charger, so you would probably find yourself plugging your phone in anyway. The GT line has a wireless charging pad, but I've found that the battery drain on the phone can be greater than the amount of charge that will provide. So just be aware of that if you're on a long trip and you're using your phone for tunes and for navigation, the car may not be able to sustain the battery life in the phone. Results may vary. My phone's getting on a bit, so maybe that's also part of it. But just be aware of that. The second row doors have inbuilt blinds that can be raised or lowered for just extra shade. So the second row is quite roomy. The seats can be adjusted forwards and backwards with a bit of recline as well. Row 3 is quite small, as you'd imagine, and access to row 3 is by folding down the second row. The 2 seats are on the curb side, the single seat is on the driver's side, and I've picked up on this before. It's one of those things that didn't come across in the conversion to right-hand drive. It's a little bit of a safety issue in that you want to be loading on the curb side, and it's just a bit hard to do that. If you have a full car, for example, you're going to have to inconvenience 2 people on the curbside, or take the risk and load up on the driver's side. That's not ideal. A bit nitpicky. People probably get around it fairly easily. If you're in a car park, it's obviously maybe not that big a deal, but certainly if you're on the side of the street, that's just something to be aware of. And I have brought it up in my previous reviews of these similar vehicles, I know, so if I sound like I'm going on about it a bit, but I think it's a valid concern. Obviously there are ISOFIX points back there for your child seats, and there are 5 tether points, so plenty of access for all of your child seat needs should you wish. And I would guess that a car of this size, you probably are going to be wanting to put those in there. And with each trim level, you kind of go up in rim size. So you start off with the Kia Sorento S, which comes with these criminally small 17-inch wheels, which just look absolutely tiny on the car. Although I was told that, replacing tires is going to be a lot easier than replacing a rim. You then go up to the Sorento Sport, which comes with 18s, the Sport Plus, 19s, and here on the GT line we have 20-inch wheels. Some nice machined black and silver, which go really well with certain colours. This vehicle we're in is in Volcanic Sand Brown, although a friend of mine affectionately referred to it as Greige, and because it sort of is that very inoffensive grey kind of tone, but in the light you get the different, you get a little bit more of the metallic, the browns sort of coming through. It's not a bad colour. Your no cost option is clear white, and then you have a raft of other colours as well. Your $695 option for other colours includes silky silver, steel grey, mineral blue, Aurora Black Pearl, gravity blue, snow white pearl, Cityscape Green, and of course Volcanic Sand Brown. Now we have some quilted Napa leather seats in here. Sport Plus trim also includes leather seats in black. They're quite comfortable, they look good, they've got this nice sort of styling on them. Heated and ventilated in the GT line in the front row, and heated in row 2. The driver's seat is 14-way power positioning with 4-way lumbar support and a cushion extension. It has memory for 2 seating positions, and the passenger front seat is 10-way power adjustable with 2-way lumbar support. We have 2 12.3-inch displays at the front here, which are really clean and crisp. The interfaces are nice. Kia's inbuilt nav is pretty good, and you get 10 years of traffic info and map updates included with the car. Of course, once you hook up Android Auto or something, you may end up using the native app for that instead.
The automatic gear selector is taken from the Genesis parts bin, providing some high-end materials in the center console.
The drive selector is just below it. I found it felt really cheap in the lower spec models. It's not quite the same here in the GT line. I don't know if it is actually different, but it just doesn't feel as bad. Nice little cubbies throughout, cup holders, of course, everywhere. Many USB points as well. Second row there in the back of the front row seats, and yeah, plenty of storage around. So can't complain too much about that. Parking sensors are really good, especially in the GT line. It will tell you what your proximity is. You have front, rear, and side sensors, detection, guidelines, full 360 camera as well. Now, as a 7-seater, boot space is a modest 179 litres once with all 7 seats up. If you fold down row 3, you get 608 litres, so it makes for a really decent 5-seater vehicle. And then with both of those rear rows down, it opens up to 1,996 litres, which is pretty decent for hauling furniture and things around. In fact, you know, we were able to fit 6 dining chairs in there once we picked those up. I mean, trips to IKEA and Costco will be a breeze in this thing. I will say we have obviously an automatic tailgate with the higher spec Sorentos. You can obviously use your key fob to activate that, which I'll come back to in a second with regards to the key fob too. But when opening it manually, the handle is probably not in this place that you expect it to be. You'd expect it to just be in that little recess where the number plate sits, but no. And Kia have actually had to put a sticker on the rear bumper to tell you where the handle actually is. So yeah, it's at the bottom of the tailgate. And yeah, so it just means you got this sticker on your rear bumper. Now, most people, I guess, are not going to care about that. It might be something I'd look to remove just for aesthetics if I was to keep the car. But, you know, that's, again, I think most people aren't going to be too bothered, but it's just something I noticed. It's, obviously, it's very practical and it drives well. It's a large-ish car, but as with most cars these days, it doesn't drive like one. I do find the suspension isn't all absorbing. You do feel all the bumps, and that's not just limited to the GT line. I found that in the previous specs as well. Don't know if it's just something about the setup of it. In fact, even in the Sorento S, it would just it felt just pretty wafty. It would shake, you know, if a truck drove past you, that sort of thing. It was just a bit surprising. And yeah, you're just feeling all the little bumps. If you hit the cat's eyes, that sort of thing, you know, that it all comes through. You hear it, feel it. So it's a bit interesting in that regard. I would have thought a larger car might have absorbed that a little better. Going over bumps and things like that, perhaps more noticeable in the lower specs, but even in this, it sometimes feels a little crashy. Speed humps and things like that. It's not terrible by any means, but yeah, I just feel maybe there was some tweaking in the suspension tune that we missed out on for our wonderfully well kept and maintained Australian roads. We do have a heads-up display in the GT line, which is always handy to keep your eyes closer to the road than looking down at the screen. But I mean, everything is about driver eyes forward. The blind spot cameras help with that. Your blind spots actually aren't too bad, so I would always suggest that you stay in the habit of checking your blind spots anyway, because the cameras can only do so much. And speaking on that, if you do have a full car and what you're seeing in your rear view mirror is just a bunch of heads bobbing around, you can adjust the rear view mirror just by flicking it up, and that will activate a camera mounted in the rear spoiler, so that what you're seeing is actually what's behind the car. And it's it might take a little bit of getting used to, but it's pretty good. Like, the clarity on it is really good. So yeah, there's just that feature, and that's in the GT line. It's something that's also been promoted in the Hyundais, like the Palisades and things like that too. So it's you know, it's good technology there, just to help you see what's behind you, of course, if you have a full car. But the Sorento's been around a while. The previous shape I thought was quite a good looking purposeful vehicle, and the 24 facelift has just brought it in line with the rest of the range. You know, lots of right angles, sharp edges, sharp corners, very much like the EV9 and all the, if you look at any of the Kia EV series coming out right now, they're all very sharp styling, and you know, Kia Picanto, all those. So the Sorento now falls in line with them as well, and I don't think they've taken anything away from the previous car. I think it still is a very decent, purposeful looking vehicle. You know, it's got a bit of style to it. It's, I think they look quite good. I wouldn't have chosen this color off the bat, but it's a good combination with the black and machined wheels. So yeah, you know, I think they've done a good thing here. It obviously is just going to come down to, you know, what power plant you want and which trim level you want to go for. Obviously, I'm talking mostly about the GT line, as that's what we're in right now, but have been able to just go through and see and compare with the S and the Sport Plus as well. Those are also compelling options. The Sport Plus just misses out on a couple of the real little niceties that this one has, so you may not find that you need all those, like the blind spot monitoring. You won't have the full panoramic glass and things like that. Still get a leather interior. It's still very comfortable. Much of what you see here is in that car too. So, you know, have a look at the range and have a look at what you think. And that's the thing, Kia have given you plenty of choice. In a very crowded SUV market, once you've decided, hey, yes, the Sorento is the car for me, you then get to decide which power plant do you want, and they've also just introduced the hybrid, and what spec level do you want. So there's plenty of choice for you there, and I think clearly it's a popular car because there are a lot of Sorentos getting around. Handy enough, we have a full-size spare under the rear of the car, so it means you don't have to offload all your shopping or get people out should you have a unfortunate flat tire or something, which is quite nice.
Being the GT line trim level, this Sorento features remote start and remote park assist via the key, a really handy feature for starting the car before entering, and also for moving the car in or out of tight parking spots, or those with inconvenient concrete pillars that just happen to line up next to the doors.
So what are your thoughts? What do you reckon? You know, in a very crowded market for 7-seater SUVs, where does the Kia Sorento sit on your list? It covers a wide range, you know, starting from in the 50s with the Sorento S up to 70 something for the GT line. But I think it holds it up pretty well against some of the competition out there, and of course you have Kia's 7-year warranty, things like that, so do think about all that as well. But what do you think? Have you got one? Are you in line to get one? And what else would you be thinking of otherwise? You know, I think it's a good, honest car, and you know, it's pretty practical for most people's needs, and you know, Kia have kind of nailed it. So big thanks to Exhaust Notes Australia for letting me review the car for them. Do check out the website for my other reviews. I've reviewed the Sorento S, the Sport Plus, and the GT line that we're in here. So if you're looking to compare, go and have a look. Obviously we have other SUVs if you want to see how they fare as well. Big thank you to Kia Australia for letting me have a play with so many of their cars so far. It's been great, good fun. Get on all our socials and check out all our reviews that we've posted. We've got plenty more to come, and we want you to check out and experience all them as well. Big thank you to all of you for having a look and sticking with me this far. I'll see you in the next one, guys. Cheers.